Ghanatube so modofo snow we masai so atena se aja konwa fefefe na ebusiafo se nya matena se de no se nsem ahodo bi enkoso ewo oman nim na entempass no ye bekwa kutie ne ahwe nsem bi a enkoso ewo oman Ghana.
Moving on, the minority in parliament say they are considering starting impeachment proceedings against President John Mahama. The MPP accused the president of engineering what they call an egregious breach of the constitution, which has left Ghana without an acting president. President Mahama has been out of the country since last week. His vice has been on sick leave, with Speaker of Parliament Alban Barr being also currently outside the jurisdiction.
And as the people of Ghana, we must all fight against this act of the president. We should, and the problem is that at the time the president was leaving, the Speaker of Parliament had already left. So when the president was leaving the country, he knew, or at best ought to have known, that he was going to create that vacuum, and that his leaving the country was going to be a breach of the constitution. But now Emperor Mr. President decided that, look, I am the emperor, I can do whatever I like. Damn the consequence, and left the country. Is that what we voted the president for? To briefly violate our constitution? And so we will keep bringing these up, and at appropriate time, if we have to invoke the impeachment proceedings, we will do so. We will not sit idly by for the constitution given to us to be violated without any consequence.
But the NDC MP for Bodi and Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Samson Ahi, says the NPP claims are baseless.
The Constitution has specified that in the absence of the president, the vice president assumes leadership of the country. In the absence of the vice president, the speaker is sworn in by the chief justice to assume leadership in the country. Equally, in the absence of the speaker, the mantle falls on the chief justice. Do we have chief justice in this country or not? Yes, we have His Lordship Justice Bafu Bone as the acting chief justice. So it is believed that Justice Bafu Bone has assumed the mantle of leadership in the absence of these three personalities that I have mentioned. So Bafu Bone is in firm control of affairs in our country. So there is no leadership crisis. There is nothing like that.
Well, let's go on to the phone lines now and speak to Kweku Ansah-Asare. He is a former director of the Ghana School of Law and has interesting views on this particular matter. I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Now, what do you make of what's happening? The MPP says there's a lacuna and therefore they want to impeach the president. The Deputy Minister of Trade says no, the acting CJ is the one acting president. But what do you make of what's happening?
Okay, thank you. I think that there's no lacuna, even though it seems to the nation that we have not been given the full fact. I think the president posted on his Facebook that he visited the vice president. And we all know that the president has been around. And therefore, if the president visited, the vice president, it seems to me that the vice president, is in the country. And if the vice president is in the country, it means that the vice president is not absent, within the meaning of the constitutional provision of absence. So to that extent, there's no lacuna. If the vice president is in the country, she is not absent. She is within the country. But let's just suppose, for the sake of argument, that the vice president is outside the country, which is denied, having regard to the president's visitation only 2 days ago. I would say that maybe the lacuna may stem from the fact that we are told that the speaker has also traveled out. But
Yes.
the acting chief justice, we have not been told has traveled out. So I should like to believe that the acting chief justice is around. The question, that will therefore arise is, has the acting chief justice been sworn in? If the acting chief justice has not been sworn in, whose fault? Is it the fault of the president or the vice president or the speaker that the acting chief justice has not been sworn in, or the fault of the chief of staff. So how do we say that, or the minority, justify the accusation that the president has violated a particular provision of the constitution? They should show me the particular provision which says that the president, has to at all costs swear in the person. If the president is not the candidate, can he swear in, the acting chief justice?
Okay.
It must be the acting chief justice must be sworn in by the speaker who has covered, and therefore the deputy speaker has to do that. So if you want to impeach, it is not the president you are impeaching. It may be the deputy whose constitutional, responsibility was not carried out. Is
it automatic that the deputy speaker must do it, or someone must inform him that because of the absence of the three people, you have to swear in the acting CJ as the acting president?
If we go by the constitutional framework, then it is incumbent on the president to notify the speaker in writing, signed by him, that is leaving the country. So that is where we have to, start the whole, blame game. Did the president so act? Was the notification given in accordance with the constitutional, provision? If in the absence of the president, the next person is the speaker, do we know whether or not the speaker is still outside? We have not been told anything, that the speaker is within or without the country. If the president, the vice president is in the country, there's no need, for anyone to be sworn in, because what the constitution says is, if the president is absent, if the vice president is absent, if the speaker is absent, so if there is any evidence that the vice president is in the country, there's no need, for anyone to act.
Okay. All right. I'm grateful to you, sir, for joining.
Well, let me bring in the Majority Chief Whip, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepom. We appreciate your time here on Joy News Prime. I want you to clarify for me. Is the speaker in the country as we speak?
Thank you very much. For the record, the speaker is outside of the jurisdiction. It's a matter of record. The president is also outside of the jurisdiction, which is also a matter of record. And then the vice president is also on some medical leave, also outside of the jurisdiction, which is also a matter of record.
It brings me to my next question. Has the acting Chief Justice been sworn in to take up the role of the president?
Now, this is a beaten path. If you recall, this matter went to the Supreme Court. In the case that, if you recall, in the 6th Parliament, when there was an issue raised by, again, the then minority regarding whether or not Speaker Doa Jao ought to take the oath of office when President John Mahama and the Vice President Mr. Atta left the jurisdiction. And it was litigated, and the Supreme Court decided that there ought to be no ceremony about this, especially because the oath of office, which the Speaker swore at the time of taking office, it implies that in the absence of the President and the Vice President, he will act. So he need not take another oath of office. So the Constitution provides for this. When the President is absent, he notifies the Speaker and informs the Speaker that in accordance with the constitutional provisions, the Vice President will act in his stead. It doesn't come with a ceremony.
So from where you sit, there hasn't been any constitutional breach? Is that the case?
Hold on. And again, when the Vice President is also absent after the President has also left the jurisdiction, the Speaker is notified. Then the Speaker simply acts. Speaker Badwin has acted as the President before. There was no ceremony. There was no swearing in. So why would anybody today say that in the absence of the President, the Vice, and the Speaker, the Chief Justice, as it is supposed to be sworn in, and that not having been done, there's a leadership lacuna. I don't get it. This is constitutional law 101. I think the minority are on a journey to nowhere. There's no issue at all. There's no issue. We don't have leadership crisis in terms of the constitutional architecture.
We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
For something for us to discuss, because
point noted.
Is a different path. This is trite.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time here on Joy News Prime. Well, away from that, the New Patriotic Party is calling on the Office of the Special Prosecutor to launch a formal investigation.
Yo, me na masese moja asopana mutie na fin so mota ehwe. Fa o comment ebra comment section na menkin kan farm fefefe. Aha eye Ghana so modofo snowy ene dey insem ne ebrem. On subscribe na fin so fa onsa emi notification bell no se ne be a se me dey insem ne tuma na unya ne entem pa so sisi ade makram.